Have you ever had an aha moment or received a piece of really wise advice or had some profound insight or maybe some really good idea that came to mind? All of these things are great, but what difference does it make if we have these thoughts or get these insights and we don't internalize them and then act on them and change our behavior and our life accordingly? Let's unpack this a little bit more and talk about it today on Gospel Minded. Hello, I'm Dr. Garrett Boyer. Welcome to Gospel Minded, an outreach of Benedictus Psychological Services. Check out that website, benedictuspsych.com. Every week, we spend a few minutes talking about psychology, emotions, mental health, and well-being, and we reflect on how these topics are related to the Sunday Gospel reading. It's no substitute for going to church or participating in counseling, therapy, spiritual direction, coaching, or whatever, but like we know so well, things of our mind and our psychology so often go beautifully together with our spirituality. If you are seeing this channel for the first time, welcome. If you are returning, welcome back. Either way, please hit subscribe and like this channel so that you'll never miss an episode of Gospel Minded. Well, friends, a very special Sunday to you. Today is the grand solemnity of Corpus Christi, the feast of the body and blood of the Lord. And the gospel today is that challenging passage from John chapter 6, the bread of life discourse. And so just to put this in perspective, it's the 6th chapter of John's gospel, but already in the chapters leading up to this and in the verses leading up to today where the gospel starts, chapter 6, verse 51, Jesus has been teaching so much. He has been working wonders. People are seeing the signs. They're hearing the things that he has to say. Are they internalizing it? How deep are they taking this to heart? And so today, Jesus says in the gospel, beginning with verse 51, I am the living bread which came down from heaven. If anyone eats of this bread, he will live forever. And the bread which I shall give for the life of the world is my flesh. And the Jews then disputed among themselves, saying, how can this man give us his flesh to eat? So Jesus said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life in you. He who eats my flesh and drinks my blood has eternal life, and I will raise him up at the last day. For my flesh is food indeed, and my blood is drink indeed. And the gospel goes on, but hard passages, tough things to kind of sit with and wrestle with. And I think the thing that stood out to me about this gospel reading today is it's not unlike other things that we encounter throughout the course of our lives. Hard pieces of advice, different things that come to mind, revelations that we may have, things that may influence me to make some changes in my life or mix things up in my career or address things in my family, even if they're hard. Truth of the matter is, however, even with these revelations, with these, call them aha moments, most of the time, people do not make behavioral changes like that. It's not very often just a matter of, I'm going to turn my life around on a dime and everything is going to be different going forward. The fact of the matter is that most often we have to kind of gear up to make really meaningful and significant behavioral changes. Even if we have the real wisdom or the insight or the knowledge piece, like I know that this is right for me, or I know that I should or shouldn't do this, or I know that this is the way I ought to conduct myself. Knowing is one thing, but internalizing that and then applying it is something very different. And as I read this gospel today, it had me thinking about the very famous psychology thinkers, Prochaska and De Clementi. They came up with this trans-theoretical model of behavioral change. And it was from way back in 1983, even before I was born. But their thinking was so important, and it is really kind of prevailed and is useful to think about and talk about even today. So their thought is this: to start changing behaviors, to start making important changes in one's life, we go through this series of steps. And the first one that they talk about is pre-contemplation. So at this pre-contemplation stage, have a look here. It's a stage where we may not have any real desire at all to initiate any kind of behavioral change. And there may be reasons for that. Maybe we haven't had that aha moment. Maybe we don't know what the benefit of an important change would look like. I think about this time of year, a lot of folks have finished with high school, young people finishing with high school, young people finishing with their undergraduate degree. Maybe some of them will go on to graduate studies, but a lot of times people don't just go into a 4-year undergrad program knowing that that's going to be coming up for them at a later point in their life. There may be a time where they aren't even really thinking about it at all. There's no desire to initiate that process because they haven't really thought about it. They don't know what the benefits of it are. And that's kind of what happens with pre-contemplation. Then there's the contemplation stage. And this is the stage where making those changes is being considered. And a lot of times we're starting to realize, like, this is a change that probably needs to happen, and I probably can't put it off anymore. And this can look a lot of different ways across a lot of different scenarios. But a lot of times this contemplation stage, we're talking about a time when we need to be thinking about making an important change within the next several months. A lot of times, say 4 to 6 months. Then there's the preparation stage. In the preparation stage, we start to make active changes, and it's going to be starting now. We're going to undertake these changes in the imminent future. Like we're on the verge of making adjustments to our life. I think about people who deal with like addictions, for example. They may wrestle with addiction of any kind to any number of things for quite a long time. And they can follow these stages as well, pre-contemplation. They haven't really thought about giving it up or changing it. Then, okay, something happens and maybe I should give up this or that or the other thing. Maybe I should, not do this as often as I have been. That preparation stage is like, okay, it's time. I got to start addressing this. And then there's this action stage. And this is when a commitment to a behavior change has started, and then we are enrolled in this. We're engaged with it. We're starting to make these transitions. For the person thinking about graduate school, this is the time now when they've sent the application in. They are interviewing. They're accepted to the program, and now they are getting ready to move to another town, another city, and start for the first semester of a graduate program. It's that action stage. And that's just an example, but these stages can be applied to, like I say, any number of things. And then the maintenance stage. This is when these behavioral changes have been started, and now we're trying to keep them up for a period of time afterwards. I bring all this up because this gospel reading today, it's tough. Here we had Jesus doing all of these wonders, speaking to so many people. Were they internalizing it? Had they really taken it in? And if so, what kind of motivation to make changes had that left for them? I think this idea of internalizing is so important to think about today because, like I say, we can have these thoughts, the good ideas, we can have the insight, we may know what the truth is, we may know what we want to get to, but most of the time, we're not just going to make adjustments in an instant. We have to go through these stages. And what exactly they look like and how they work for each individual person or each specific circumstance can vary a little bit. But I think the big takeaway is this: when it comes to making important decisions in our lives, making changes for the better, we need to really internalize those thoughts and let them sit and then act on them accordingly and appropriately. Of course, Jesus today is saying, take and eat my body and my blood. This is true food. Literally internalizing the body and blood of the Lord, hopefully to reflect his presence to the world. But with whatever we are confronted with, wrestling with, we want to internalize those thoughts and then act on it appropriately for the sake of making life better for us, to try and reflect those virtues of a Christian lifestyle and flourish in this life that's been a gift to us. So I think this is really good stuff to think about on this Corpus Christi Sunday. It's been on my mind. Hopefully you'll spend a little time reflecting on it as well. And I'll see you next week when we will be back to ordinary time. It'll be great. And even though it's ordinary time, I have no doubt we'll still have some extraordinary things to talk about. So between now and then, let's keep one another in prayer, and I'll see you next time. I'm Dr. Garrett Boyer. This is Gospel Minded. Take care.